And in the studio, we're very lucky to be joined by James Laidler. His verse novel, The Taste of Apple, is special for many reasons. It was Best First Book 2010 IP Picks Award, and it also comes with a CD and has 13 key points in the book that supposedly links with the CD, and it is a gorgeous-looking book indeed. Thanks so much for coming in, James.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Perhaps we'd start by asking you, what's the state of the verse novel in Australia? I mean, I guess it's most associated with the late Dorothy Porter.
It is very much so, yeah.
But since then, is it a thriving...
Look, there's quite a few practitioners, particularly actually young adult writers are writing in verse and making great headway into the young adult market. And I think it's fantastic because, poetry struggles at that end of the market, and it's sort of I think it's a bridge into more classical and progressive forms of poetry, because you've got narrative and kids love narrative, and so it's...
And the inclusion of a CD with you were saying before we came on air, not only are there songs and readings on there, but there's the whole book as an ebook on there. In some ways, this marrying of text with audio visual elements has kind of been this holy grail of e-publishing for a long time. People have talked about, the possibilities and all the rest of it. But it often doesn't work. How did you manage to overcome that sort of schism that sometimes get between the text and the audio?
It wasn't easy, and it's a mystery to me exactly how it came together. Yep. It started its life as a verse novel, and then I had a musical friend who's a great composer, and I got him on board because I had this idea. I thought one of these poems, I could hear it with musical backing and spoken word, and so we went to work on it, and we said, well, that really works. It actually draws out more of the, it gave the whole poem a more cathartic sort of edge to it, and so we just took it from there, and we decided, well, let's just keep rolling with this and see where it takes us.
You said the verse novel is in a healthy state, but why choose that form against any other?
Well, I actually prefer writing in prose, but I think the verse novel is great because if you're reading it as fiction, it provides the reader with a huge amount of dignity in their reading, because there's so much that's unstated that the reader has to read into the story and find their own meaning, because there's so much white space, so much unstated meaning. And it also, with the sort of economy of words, I think there's a real craft to it and the opportunity to paint very vivid pictures. So I just like it, that sort of sensory experience.
Now, it's a self-consciously political book in many ways, a story of Pedro and his coming to terms with issues of asylum seekers and social justice more generally. How did you go about then marrying that theme with that particular format? I mean, because I guess there's two schools of thought about this. Sometimes people say, well, if you're trying to investigate a particular area or a particular topic, then you need the simplest format you possibly can to reach as many people as you can. Or other people say, well, because these are complicated issues, you need to push the boundaries aesthetically to try and, make people think about these things in different ways.
Soften the blow.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's not easy. And I think in particular, the book is really probably primarily aimed at a young adult audience. And so the issues aren't, they don't stand up to adult scrutiny, perhaps, in terms of the sophistication of what I was trying to put together. But at the same point, I think there's value in the message for this young audience, and that was the intention from the beginning. So
we think of The Taste of Apple, and we think of Eden, and we think of Adam and Eve, and William Blake. The apple, many times over, has been the symbol of sin. Maybe for listeners out there, expand on what Jeff was saying, what the book's about.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it is a metaphor, and it's quite an obvious metaphor. But what I wanted to do, I wanted to take a classical story, like the story of Adam and Eve, and I wanted to subvert it. I wanted to talk about actually the preciousness of knowledge and the thirst for knowledge, and how it's actually good and brings people into a sense of wholeness rather than the opposite, which it's often associated with. So that was one of the first impulses.
So less Adam, more Prometheus, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
I love that. Now we're going to play a track while talking. Johnny's song. Maybe introduce this.
Yeah, sure. Look, I'll read a little poem that sort of prefaces the song. The song was, I think it's probably the key song on the album. And Johnny is a young fella who's struggling with his own sense of identity. His mum's a Filipino woman who was brought over by a white country fella, sort of an arranged marriage, and so he struggles with his sense of identity, and life goes pear-shaped, and he eventually meets a young East Timorese asylum seekers in the Commission Flats in Richmond, and he's an asylum seeker who had fled in the early 90s from the Dili massacre, and he goes around, he gets involved in this freedom movement that's sort of touring around the suburbs trying to generate some sort of interest in the issue. And Johnny's a busker, and at one point, whenever they go to present to people, he gets up and sings this song. And this is actually detailing Pedro when he first sees him sing the song for the first time. So I read a poem before, played the song, and I'll read one that's afterward. This is Another Place. Up in front of us, guitar in hand, Johnny stands. His eyes are on the audience, but I can tell he's staring right through us. Johnny's in another place. Maybe he's still standing among the sounds of gunfire and the screams that reached him from under the hall's front door. Or perhaps in his mind, he's back in East Timor, crouched beside his mother's grave. Wherever he is, I'll never know. But by the way Johnny sings, I know it's a place of infinite sadness, a place of vast and unfathomable grief.
When they came, they opened fire on the people.
Well, we pride ourselves, and I think properly so, in standing up for human rights. Military assistance programs expose the trainees to democratic ideas and humanitarian standards.
I'm very concerned about what's happened in East Timor. We have ignored it so far.
Morning hangs like a veil. Our broken dreams fill these graves. Our prayers scratch holes in the sky. We came here to mourn, not to die. Reach for your hand as we walk. Your skin is so tense, but so warm. Soldiers stand around with their guns. They're drowning in screams as we run. And I watch you fall, lifeless bird from the sky. You slip through my fingers, no kiss, no goodbye. So I lay down my arms around you, and the shots fire while I cry for you.
I lost one sister and two brothers.
It was 10 days before I was to give birth. The army was shooting people, and they would die at our feet, but you couldn't stop to help them.
I know families that were totally wiped out. Two American newsmen badly beaten, Mr. Alan Leon and Miss Amy Goodman.
The Indonesian army converged in two places.
Wiping the hair from your face, you stare vacant eyes into space. Oh, sticky wet red on my hands. Your body lies limp in my arms. And I watch you fall, lifeless bird from the sky. You slip through my fingers, no kiss, no goodbye. So I lay down my arms around you, and the shots fall while I cry for you.
All That's Left. When Johnny finishes his singing, Brendan slowly gets up and removes the tape from the VCR. Sitting on my chair, speechless, I try to make sense of the feelings burning a path through my body, but it's too hard. Nothing solid remains. Everything is consumed in fire. I am a burnt-out shell, filled only with the blackened, angry remains of my still smouldering heart. My ignorance lies in ruins, and all that's left are my tears, my rage, and my head full of ash.
That's the voice of James Laidler reading from the new book Taste of Apple, being launched tomorrow night at Readings in Ackland Street, St Kilda. Thank you very much for coming in, James. And there'll be a performance of some of the music tonight?
There will, yeah. Yep, on Thursday night there will be. And also in Warrnambool there's another launch at the Art Gallery 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You're around about.
And who are some of the other titles that you'll be launching with in Melbourne?
Yeah, so a whole bunch of IP titles by Leah Kaminsky.
Who we'll be talking to next week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, Stitching Things Together, which apparently is meant to be a great collection of poems. And Lynn Reeves, and there's a few other people, and I haven't met them yet, so I'm not sure who they are.
Well, people can go down to Readings themselves tomorrow night and find out, see with their own eyes, hear with their own ears. Thanks very much for coming in and performing for us, and good luck tomorrow night.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.